Welcome in to an Ask Anything mailbag, Dolphins Today, off-season edition. And yes, it does pain me to say that. And in fact, I'm saying it sooner than I had hoped, sooner than I had anticipated, but no time to cry over spilled milk. We turn the page. The Dolphins lost to the Kansas City Chiefs, and now we are in off-season mode and improving this Miami Dolphins team for 2024 so that they're ready to make a run becomes priority number one. So without further ado, let's get into the Ask Anything mailbag, starting with this question from Kelly Hutchinson, one of the realest of the real, always supporting Dolphins Today with us every step of the way, and we appreciate that. She asks, I believe Tua would have done a lot better. I mean, don't get me wrong if he did good this year, but I really believe we would have went a lot further if we would have had a better offensive line. You know, that's a good point, and I do think when conversations begin to take place about the quarterback, there's so many other components to it, like an offensive line, like a supporting cast as wide receivers. Obviously, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle were very good, but the offensive line certainly plays a huge factor in it. And injuries played a huge factor in the offensive line. They had over 13 different starting combinations in 19 games. Part of that was due to injury concerns, like Connor Williams tore his ACL against the Tennessee Titans on Monday Night Football, and that was a tough loss for the Dolphins. You look at the production for Miami with Connor Williams in the lineup. They were 7-2. Without him, just 4-5. Better points per game, better yards per game, and of course, fewer sacks allowed with Connor Williams in the lineup. And that's just one offensive line. Teron Armstead missed a couple of games. Kendall Lamb missed a couple of games. Isaiah Wynn was on IR, never came back. You get the point. This Dolphins offensive line was decimated with injuries, so I do think, obviously injuries are a part of the NFL, but moving forward in 2024, I just can't anticipate a scene where the Dolphins are as decimated by injuries as they were in 2023. So I do think improved offensive line play will help Tua Tagovailoa, much like we saw at the beginning of 2023. This one's coming in from Fresfin. Could it be McDaniels Pants? Jim Harbaugh wouldn't wear that. I love it, Fresfin. Appreciate it. Yeah, Mike McDaniel's got some swag. You see it on Hard Knocks. He's got the high top kicks, the pants rolled up. I think Mike McDaniels is unapologetically himself, will always be that way. It's great when you're winning. When you don't win, it becomes annoying maybe, but I don't want Mike McDaniel to change. All right, JJ the Jet. All right, let's go to Howard Huey's question. Do the Dolphins draft a cornerback with the second pick in the draft? Not a bad idea. Xavier Howard's still under contract. He's been in the news quite a bit because he's a guy whose production hasn't really met the level of contract that he has because he's very well paid. You got Jalen Ramsey in the lineup. What's also interesting is the supporting corners. You saw Kader Kohou take a step forward this year. Cam Smith was drafted in the second round last year out of South Carolina, and Cam Smith just really didn't play. And the Dolphins also elevated Ethan Bonner in that wild card game against the Chiefs, and he played over Cam Smith. So I think the Dolphins are really high on Ethan Bonner. Now, Cooper DeJean is a corner out of Iowa that was likely to go in the first round, and maybe later in the first round, like around that 21st range that the Dolphins pick. So maybe keep your eye on him, but I don't think the Dolphins will go that direction. From JJ the Jet Plane, how would you classify the 2023 season? How would I classify the 2023 season? Very good question. I mentioned it in the open. I think one of our Dolphins Today viewers said it was a roller coaster season. That's a great way to put it. But I think there was measurable progress combined with some very clear mishaps, as well as some, I don't want to say injury excuses, but injuries were a part of the equation here in 2024. So I think Tua made a lot of progress. I think the offense made progress, but some of the very, very clear mishaps were the inability to win on the road, the inability to beat good teams, and ultimately the inability to finish games. That game against the Tennessee Titans on Monday Night Football, you finish that game, you're probably playing, you're playing home games in the opening round instead of having to go to Kansas City. All right, it's back to school time. What grade would you give the Dolphins this season? Let me know in the comments, A, B, C, D, or F. As far as classifying the entire 2023 season as a whole, let me know in the comments. I go B-, and I could even be talked into a C+, given the way the team started compared to how they finished. But I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments. This one's coming in from Anthony Manzano using the hashtag Dolphins. Asks, of the quarterback you mentioned earlier that could be a possible replacement for Tua, who is the better fit for the scheme McDaniel wants to run? Now, if McDaniel remains the play caller, remember that was a question he was asked at the postseason media availability, if he would relinquish play calling duties, and sounds like there's at least a little bit of discussion there, but Mike McDaniel's offense thrives with a guy like Tua that is accurate with the ball, that can throw the deep ball. There's a lot of pre-snap motion, and you look at the film when this offense was thriving, Tua was fitting it into tight windows. They're utilizing the whole field. Mike McDaniel's offense needs an accurate passer. Dak Prescott was a guy we discussed, but Kirk Cousins also a guy that we discussed. And because I think Kirk Cousins is one of the more accurate passers, if you're talking about realistic replacements that would have a fit with Mike McDaniel's offense, I give the nod to Kirk Cousins over Dak. Although Dak has shown the ability to extend plays, he's a little bit more mobile, he can run a little bit better, and obviously leading the NFL in touchdown passes certainly bodes well for Dak Prescott in that category as well. I just think the asking price would be too much for Dak. So if we are talking about replacements for Tua Tagovailoa, I think Kirk Cousins makes the most sense. I'm not saying I'm on board with that. In fact, I don't want to go that direction. But per the question, for conversation's sake, I do think Kirk Cousins makes a lot of sense. All right, from Every Noodle, do you think there are any interesting tight end prospects in the draft? Brock Ewers, certainly, out of Georgia. And Brock Bowers is a guy that is so athletic. And not only is he so athletic, but he's a guy that represents kind of that new age of tight end. Brock Bowers did suffer some injuries earlier in his career, but I don't think that has really detained his ability to be a top prospect. And I don't think Miami will draft a tight end that high up or trade to get up for a guy like Brock Bowers. But with that said, I think he represents the premier tight end that, and I'm not saying he's going to be Jason Kelce or Travis Kelce, my apologies, or Rob Gronkowski or anything like that. I just think he is really skilled as a tight end. You can split him out wide, utilize him on the slot, and is a guy that played at a big-time level, obviously for a big-time program, and would certainly be someone to keep your eye on. Want to thank today's proud presenting sponsor, Factor, America's #1 meal delivery service. FactorMeals.com/FinsChat50 is where you have to go to get 50% off. And that is a deal that's stealing, because let me tell you, Factor meals are delicious. They are filling. They're delivered straight to your door. They only take 2 minutes to heat up. And my favorite part, there's no mess. So say goodbye to grocery shopping. Say goodbye to meal prepping. Oh yeah, that cooking fatigue waves goodbye as well, because Factor ready-to-eat, fresh, never frozen meals takes the stress right out of meal prepping, and it sets you up for success in the new year. So skip the grocery store, skip the cooking fatigue, and say goodbye to the dishes, because with Factor's fresh, never frozen, chef-crafted meals, over 35 options to choose from, including keto, calorie smart, vegan, veggie, and more, plus over 55 weekly add-ons. You'll have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your resolution. So head to factormeals.com/FinsChat50. That's right, factormeals.com/FinsChat50, and use that code FinsChat50 to get 50% off. That's code FinsChat50 at factormeals.com/FinsChat50 to get 50% off. All right, this one from X-Man Games. What positions do you believe should be focused on the offseason for the Dolphins? We talked about the offensive line. I think you can have a similar discussion, not the exact same discussion, but you can never have too many talented defensive linemen in this league. And while Christian Wilkins and Zach Sealer were incredible on the interior defensive line, there wasn't a lot of depth at that position group. And I think it's okay to talk about replacing some edge rushers with this upcoming draft class, because there were a lot of injuries at that position, and we know in today's NFL it's such a crucial position to be able to get pressure on the quarterback. And I don't want to just name every single position group out there, but earlier I did say the wide receiver room might benefit from some added depth. And you talk about Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, probably, and maybe even arguably, the best wide receiver duo in the NFL, certainly among the most elite. But after that, there's been quite the drop-off. Chase Claypool didn't work out, and River Craycraft, I don't think he's necessarily your number 3. Braxton Berrios is a pending free agent. Cedric Wilson, pending free agent. Those are all points of discussion as far as the wide receiver room is going, and building that depth might be appropriate through the draft. From I Am Commando Mando 754, do you think the head coach would open up his playbook more if we had a scrambling QB with an arm? Perhaps. I mean, I don't really know if the ability to run drastically impacts plays. I think it does here and there. You look at a guy like Josh Allen, every now and then there's running plays called for Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson as well, but other than that, I don't think there's a lot of running plays called for quarterbacks on the zone read. The defenses are just too fast. Now, in the passing game, maybe getting Tua out of the pocket, rolling out a little bit, and some run-pass options. You see that a little bit more at the college game than you do in the NFL. Although, again, I don't think being mobile ever hurts you by any means. But in today's NFL, it's so much more about extending plays and being able to keep your eyes downfield while scrambling, and from there being a successful quarterback. And even mobile guys like Jalen Hurts, and you see him get banged up a little bit this year for the Eagles, because running the football as a quarterback certainly takes its toll on the body. This from GG23. Who are the top pending free agents we need to re-sign? Well, I'll give you 2 right off the bat. That is Connor Williams on the offensive line and Christian Wilkins on the defense. Now, this roster has a ton of pending free agents, but I'll give you 10 right here. Andrew Van Ginkel, he's another one I want to prioritize. Jerome Baker at the linebacker position. I hope the Dolphins are able to find a way to re-sign him, but he's one that if you told me tomorrow, yeah, he's going to be a cap casualty, I wouldn't necessarily be shocked. He was hurt a little bit this year, but before that, he had been very, very durable. I mentioned Connor Williams and Christian Wilkins. Those are must-signs. Cedric Wilson, I don't know if he or Braxton Berrios, for that matter, did enough to prove that they're worthy of a long-term contract deal. Isaiah Wynn was injured quite a bit this year. Rob Hunt, I think, is going to be an offensive lineman that they extend. And so, again, there's going to be some quote-unquote cap casualties that the Dolphins just don't have a way to re-sign them because of the cap situation and being roughly $40 million in the hole. But I want to hear from you. Let me know. You're the GM for today. What's the most important player to re-sign? We just sent you the list below, but I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments who's the most important player to re-sign. Want to remind you to subscribe to the channel because, oh yes, we've got a Dolphins video for you every single day. That's why you subscribe. We're covering the aqua and orange from every angle, so make sure you smash that sub button as we continue to grow. And oh yeah, we are getting closer and closer to 56,000 subscribers on Dolphins Today. Question coming in from Chris Chopa, trade Tua and draft picks. Okay, very emphatic there. I'm assuming you mean trade Tua and trade some of those draft picks so we can bring in a guy maybe like Dak Prescott. That would be a monumental deal, and I don't think there's any other quarterbacks really that are on the quote-unquote trade market. I'm not even sure Dak Prescott is on the trade market. Maybe you try to go after a guy like Justin Fields since the Bears had the first overall pick and could draft Caleb Williams if they wanted to. I don't think the Bears are in that camp. You know, Matt Eberflus is still running that organization and running that football team, and I don't know if he's ready to turn on Justin Fields and go a different direction, but we will see. So the notion of trading Tua, you wouldn't have to re-sign him. That's certainly a way to help with that cap situation. Although, if you draft a quarterback, then you get a quarterback on the rookie deal. It's a little bit more team-friendly. Lots of different things to consider, but Chris, I love you, and I appreciate you tuning into the show. I just don't disagree with that notion. All right, from Sean Murphy, do we draft a quarterback in the first 2 rounds to give Tua competition? Yes. Now, that is one thing we explored on Dolphins Today. Make sure you check that out if you haven't yet seen it already. But the notion of drafting and stashing a quarterback, I don't hate. And in the later first round, there is some value there. Guys like J.J. McCarthy, if he's still around in that 21st, you might have to trade up a little bit. A lot of people have him mocked kind of in the late teens area. Michael Penix Jr., maybe you take a flyer on him. He had a great game in the college football playoff semifinal, not so much in the national championship. Or Bo Nix, one of the most accurate passers in college football. Can he have success at the NFL level? Those are 3 guys that maybe you could draft this year, and they could learn under Mike McDaniel in the tutelage of that prolific offense while Tua's on his 5th-year option.